Harris, Channel 4, the local station. Normally you see me doing weather as your weekend meteorologist, but we have a lot to talk about because of Hurricane Milton. So I'm going to be going through everything very thoroughly. This will not be a quick forecast. I'm going to give you a lot of details about what is happening, what's coming up, and what you can anticipate as far as Hurricane Milton as it approaches the state of Florida. So first of all, I want to go over a lot of the color coding. Things have changed substantially in the last 24 hours, where we now are going to have storm surge warnings, hurricane watches, hurricane warnings as well. So because of that, I want to go through some of this color coding. You'll understand what's happening, which is well beyond the scope of what we normally do when it comes to, let's say, a flood advisory. So first, let's take a look. You'll see over the next 2 days, the purple shaded color. This is specifically going to be the storm surge warning. This is in effect until Monday, 7:55 a.m. The counties included: Putnam. You'll also see portions of Flagler, St. John's. This goes all the way up to Nassau County. You'll notice this is also along the coast. And the majority of the space you'll see is also within the area of the St. John's River. So just keep that in mind, that anywhere where you see this purple is the indication of the storm surge warning. And I'll go in detail over that in just a moment. In addition to that, we have some other concerns. We have the hurricane warning. That's going to be in this darker brown color. This is going to be in effect through Monday as well, so keep that in mind. And this is going to be from 20 to 60 nautical miles out from the coast. And I'm going to show you hour by hour how the storm's going to cut across the state. It'll give you a better idea why we have that hurricane warning and how we'll be possibly dealing with some very strong, serious, dangerous winds over the next 48 hours. So we'll go over that in just a moment. In addition to that, we also have these hurricane watches. It's more of a salmon sand color. They'll get a little bit confusing after a while, but we also have the hurricane watches. So in some areas we'll have the hurricane watches, in some areas we'll have the hurricane warnings. The warning is essentially meaning that it's going to be imminent as far as the impact of a hurricane based upon the current track of Hurricane Milton. So you'll see here in this area as well yet another hurricane warning, this on land for various counties. We also have the tropical storm warnings. This is more of a brown shade. Most of our counties are seeing this for the time being right in this area just west of I-75. So along Columbia County, Alachua County, they are the areas that are focused on the tropical storm warning for this point. Now overall, taking a look at what we're dealing with, it is an absolutely beautiful day for most of you in Southeast Georgia and Northeast Florida. This is the day, Tuesday, where you need to take the time and get prepared for this storm. And if you haven't already, today is the day to do it. So as you can see throughout Southeast Georgia, Northeast Florida, it's a good day to prepare, whether you're preparing your home, whether you're going to get some extra toiletries, some water, restocking your hurricane kit. Regardless of what it is, please utilize today, whether it's you're at work now, you do it on your lunch break, or once you get off work, to get everything situated so that you have the ability to hunker down once we start dealing with some of the winds and some of the impact of this storm making its way even before it makes landfall. So now this is the current track as far as Hurricane Milton. We're going to take a look as it's cutting across near the Cancun area in Mexico. Tuesday, 8 a.m. 145 miles per hour as far as the sustained winds, still moving this area. But remember, as I mentioned this before, as a Category 4 storm, now projected to be up to a 5, then dropping back down to a 4. It is supposed to be impacted by some wind shear that would bring it down to a potential Category 3 hurricane before making landfall. The projection for making landfall now showing Tuesday, 2 a.m. at 125 miles per hour for the sustained winds. Then cutting across the state, cutting across the central portion of the state, 80 miles per hour, it appears at this point, would be on Thursday, 2 p.m., and then moving through out into the coast Friday, 2 a.m. So the storm has shifted, and it will continue to shift as it makes its way cutting across the Gulf. But again, maintaining a 4, then projected it to be a Category 5 by 2 p.m. today, then a 4, and staying as a 4, definitely maintaining its energy, and then shifting down to a Category 3 just before it makes landfall. So again, as you can see, Thursday 2 a.m. with winds at 125 miles per hour sustained around the time frame when it eventually makes landfall along the Gulf, somewhere between Tampa and Sarasota. The storm surge here is expected to be extremely dangerous and deadly, and also impactful. So as we're taking a look at some of the spaghetti models, they are really starting to agree more in comparison to how they were just 48 hours ago. As the storm is getting closer to us, the parameters as they are being processed over and over again through the models, look at how these spaghetti models are essentially agreeing. These are at least 7 different tropical spaghetti models that are helping to give the idea of the track of this storm. It's dangerous storm. It will be a dangerous, deadly storm. And you can see they are now agreeing so much more than they did just on Sunday when I was looking at some of these tropical models. So just within the last 48 hours, that this is likely a storm that is headed toward Tampa Bay and going to have a very serious impact on that community and obviously the surrounding communities, then making its way through Orlando before moving offshore. Remember, we would still be impacted by the outer bands of the storm. We would still have to deal with strong winds. We would still have to deal with heavy downpours, and we do have the possibility of storm surge. Right now, we still have winds moving through the northeast, but again, the only thing we're seeing right now is cloud coverage. But we're taking a look at the track for the hurricane, for Hurricane Milton. Wednesday, 6 a.m. We see the system still churning in the Gulf, but look at these outer bands already of that light to moderate rain by Wednesday early in the morning. And now look as it continues to shift, headed towards Tampa. Look at the heavy downpours off the coast, but then also look at some of the outer bands and the storms, these isolated storms that are making their way throughout the state, as far south as Miami, as far north as into southeast Georgia, and also within that Florida-Georgia border, so all the way out to I-75, I-10, all the way out east to I-95, I-10 as well. This is Wednesday, 6 p.m. This is based upon the current projections of the models to give you an idea of what to anticipate. So again, Hurricane Milton hasn't even made landfall, but already having an impact Wednesday evening when it comes to rain. Let's continue to look as it moves through, now approaching the state, making landfall. Take a look here. See how we have these outer bands all the way out into the Atlantic, and then heavy downpours now concentrated in the northern portion of the state. This is Thursday, 7:45 a.m. So a lot of the winds and the heavy downpours will be occurring at a time frame when you're just waking up in the morning or you've been sleeping in. Some of you, I know I will be wide awake watching this storm. Now we still see an impact of heavy downpours and strong winds still coming in the state as Milton is moving across the state, about to make its exit Thursday at 1:15 p.m. You still can see the strong winds coming ashore, and this is anticipated to be a Category 1. Even as Hurricane Milton moves off the state of Florida, it's still expected to be a Category 1 hurricane in the Atlantic. So Thursday, 4:45 is the time frame now. This system starts to move off into the Atlantic. And so this is what we're dealing with at this point. It then comes decreased down to a tropical storm by around Friday morning. We would still be getting some very strong winds from off of this storm coming on shore. Now, let's take a look at the overall forecast that we've been looking at for your rainfall forecast. This is over the next 5 days. Palm Coast, looking at 10 inches. We're looking at about 7 inches for Orange Park, Green Cove Springs, St. Augustine, and Palaca. We're looking at approximately 4 inches for Gainesville at this point. Jacksonville's looking at about 5 inches, as well as Mayport. And you can see we're kind of on a gradient depending on how the storm shifts and moves. McClenny is at 3 inches, Brunswick's at 2, Waycross at ½ an inch, 1/4 of an inch for Homerville, and about 1.75 inches for Lake City. Now, over the next 5 days, as far as the probability for tropical storm force winds. Tropical storms can vary between 38 miles per hour to about 73 miles per hour is within that scope of it being a tropical storm. The sustained wind is considered for at least 60 seconds. So as we take a look here, the probability of those tropical storm winds right here in this area of Tampa Bay and south of it, and just slightly north of it as well, also further inland east, they're at probably 90 to 100% essentially guaranteed they're going to experience those winds, in addition to your hurricane force winds as well, which would be at 74 miles per hour sustained. Now for Jacksonville, southeast Georgia, and northeast Florida, we're looking in the scope right here. So we're in a range of about 20% to right into our southern counties, and even for some of our inland counties, at about 40% chance of getting some tropical storm force winds. Now for the strong tropical storm winds as well, it remains the same for us. Regardless of the pattern. Now the forecast for these gusty winds, watch how they start to increase going through after we move through Tuesday. Right now we're looking at Tuesday, now we're going into Wednesday early in the morning, and you can see we're already going to be dealing with some gusty winds coming on shore into the 20s right along the coast. And then as we continue to move into Wednesday, those winds will continue to increase. The gusts will increase as well. Now, as far as overall radar, we do see here that there are some areas where there are some concerns of potential flooding, and those are going to be in place for at least the next couple of days. Right now, as far as cloud coverage, we're really not dealing with any. As I mentioned, this is a beautiful day. It's a great day for us to get anything done that we need to get done to prepare for Hurricane Milton. We still have the high rip current risk. This is along the coast. This is going to stay here throughout the rest of the week for the Florida-Georgia border along the coast, all the way down to around West Palm. Also on the western portion of the state as well, they have a moderate to high rip current risk, which is to be anticipated. Right now, when looking at the river gauges for river levels, most of them are in green. Near Duval County, Clay, I anticipate that these are going to shift, though, over the next 48 hours to minor or moderate flooding status is the concern. We have one that is at action. This is closer to the area near Orange Park. And then as we go further down the St. Johns River, you can see there's only a couple of them closer to Palatka that have the action status. But we're going to continue monitoring these, obviously, as we shift through the next 48 hours, because we're going to get some rain and it's going to make the difference. Now, the rainfall forecast over the next 3 days as well is very similar to the one for the next 5 days. Again, Palm Coast at 10 inches, Palatka, Green Cove Springs, St. Augustine, Orange Park at 7, Jacksonville, Mayport at 5, Gainesville at 4 inches, McClenny and St. Mary's here at 3, Brunswick here at 2, Lake City at 1.75. Temperatures right now, really it's a beautiful day. We're in the mid to upper 70s, low 80s along the coast, slightly warmer. Wind speeds are breezy, but overall calm for most of you. The low temperatures for tonight are going to be in the mid to low 70s, especially for our southern counties. Along the coast, you'll be in the mid 70s, so Mayport, St. Augustine, Palm Coast, you'll be in the range between around 75. Further inland, though, you'll be in more of the low 70s, so Gainesville, Palatka, Orange Park, Jacksonville. And then Lake City and McClenny, you'll be in the upper to low 60s tonight. Also more of the same for Waycross and Brunswick as well. St. Mary's, you'll be at 70. So that's what we're dealing with. Tomorrow, the high temperature will stay in the mid to upper 70s. And overall, that's what we'll be dealing with throughout the day. So tomorrow will be a pleasant day, temperature-wise. But this is what we're going to be dealing with, folks, when it comes to Hurricane Milton. The concern is when it will make landfall, when it will leave the state. Essentially, we need to carve out time and be prepared and hunkered down by this evening, Tuesday, so that you can then be ready to go and prepared for the storm going into late Tuesday, early Wednesday morning, and then still seeing impacts of it as we move from Wednesday into Thursday, and finally starting to make a sigh of relief on Friday when it comes to the storm. I'm going to have another update for you in about an hour. But again, I just want everyone to make sure that they're now taking Hurricane Milton very seriously. We're going to see the impacts of this storm throughout the state, and we will see impacts as far as rain accumulation and wind, and also the potential for storm surge in our area. So I also want to pull up some information for you guys and some data coming from the National Hurricane Center as well, so I'll pull that up for you guys right now. But again, this is a good time for you all to start getting prepared. If you have any questions about resources by county, we've also created a couple of different sources with various web pages that we have on our website. So you can go to news4jax.com right now and check that out. We wanted to create a guide for you county by county, so you can look for that as well. So you can get that information on our website at news4jax.com. So in addition to the rainfall that we're potentially going to see, also the concerns that we have for wind, we also have to take into consideration we could be dealing with some flash flooding. Right now, around the southeast Georgia, northeast Florida border, we currently have about a 15% probability for the flash flood risk. That's going to be over the next 3 days. But as far as Jacksonville and also going further south into our southern counties, the concern is about 40% potentially for some flash flooding. And that's going to happen when we're dealing with some of those outer bands that are going to have the higher concentration of rainfall that'll be coming down. That could lead to that. So please keep that in mind as well. Now, in addition to the flash flooding, there's also the peak surge concern, and right now we're looking at the potential for a peak in surge of about 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. This is along the coast from southeast Georgia down through our southern counties of northeast Florida. So that's about 3 to 5 feet, and then it's about 2 to 4 feet for the St. Johns River. So I'm actually going to create a graphic to show that for you as well. But I wanted folks to keep that in mind, that we do still have to consider the possibility of storm surge based upon how this hurricane is cutting across the state, and will also have an impact for us in that way. So I'm going to have another update for you within the next 30 minutes to an hour. Make sure that you download the Weather Authority apps and also visit our website for county by county information. I'll be going through more of that in just the hour. But again, I have the live stream for you to give you your weather updates and also give you some other updates as far as logistics and what will be happening county by county. That'll be coming up in the next hour. Janice Harris, Channel 4, the local station. Thank you for joining me for this live stream, and I'll see you back in about 30 minutes to an hour.